Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode here on The Weight Unfolded. My name's Izzy, and this week's episode we do not have a guest on the show. Instead, it is just me, and I am going to be talking about something a bit closer to my heart, which is advocating for visual impairment, autism, and things like that. So that is kind of the goal for this week's episode, and yeah, let's get into it. For those of you that do not know what advocacy means, it means speaking up or taking action to support a cause, a person, or a group of people. The goal is to create positive change, raise awareness, or make sure people's voices are heard. For example, someone campaigning for better accessibility for disabled people is an advocate. A person raising awareness about mental health is doing advocacy, and speaking up against bullying at school is a form of advocacy. Supporting equal rights for different communities is also advocacy. Example of an advocate would be Greta Thunberg, who became well known for her famous How Dare You speech. She raises awareness for global warming and climate change. And it's just really inspiring to see someone of such a young age raising awareness for the world and its climate. As I've said multiple times in this podcast, I am visually impaired and I also have autism, and I wanted to speak out more and try and help people realise that they aren't alone. I guess I wanted to help educate people who might not be as aware of these topics, and I wanted to show people what it's like to be visually impaired and autistic. Even with the petition that I made to make mocks and state exams more accessible for visually impaired people, that has now got over 50 signatures. Every single signature is a step forward to making change, which is something I'm honoured to be a part of. After all, it's our future and the future of the generations to follow. Anything we can do to make the world less stressful and more accessible for them is something that means a lot to me. What's the biggest challenge I find advocating? I guess the biggest challenge for me is finding the right people that will listen, because as I'm only 16, it's hard to find people that will listen to someone so young, and I have to push myself into a world where sometimes the world isn't very kind, and just finding the right people that will listen and take what I have to say on board is something that I'm fighting hard for every single day, and I will never give up. What is the biggest lesson I've learned during my advocacy journey? The biggest lesson I've learned is that don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and you never know, you might find the right person that will listen. I've had a bunch of amazing feedback from different people saying that my podcast has really helped them, and that is something that just makes my heart really happy to hear. Why do I think it is important for especially young people to use their voices? After all, it is our future, and anything that we say that we need change, that change needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast, because at the end of the day, it is the world that we are going to be living in for years to come. So it is very important to speak out if you notice that something is wrong. What is one misconception about visually impaired and autistic people that I'd like to change? For visual impairment, I guess the biggest thing that is misconceived is that you can't be visually impaired if you can see. Basically, I don't have to be blind in order to be visually impaired. My eyes still don't work the same way yours do, and I cannot see as well, and I can't even go out in the lovely sun and get my tan like you can. And for autism, I guess that all autistic people have to be the same. It's called autism spectrum disorder for a reason. We're not all the same, and we all have different sensitivities and struggles that we face on a day-to-day basis. So someone mightn't like noise, or another person mightn't like the different lights. So like if a light was dark and was suddenly light, a person may not like that, or they might like change, or they mightn't like certain textures. We're all different and we all have different struggles. It's very important that you respect that and that you try and help us rather than assuming that we're the same as an autistic person that you've met before. It's very important that you get to know us first before assuming and jumping to conclusions. And now it's time for the question of the day. Last week's question of the day is, how can we raise awareness for the different walks of life, which is fitting for this episode, seeing as it's all about advocacy. So here are some of your answers. Scott says that he thinks that people should be more supportive and realise that differences don't make us better or worse. Eleanor says that you should call someone out on bad behaviour. And Lily says that you could spread info on different topics. And this week's question of the day is, if you could change anything about the world, what would it be and why? So you could send your answers in to thewaitinfolded@gmail.com with the subject line episode 10 answer. Or you could DM me at thewaitinfolded on Instagram and TikTok. So why is it important to listen to those with lived experiences? You won't know about the journeys that people face without listening to what they have to say. So if you listen to a visually impaired person about their experiences in school and actually take on board what they have to say, you could actually help them by either offering in a polite way to hold their books for them or hold the door open. And for an autistic person, you could ask them what they need to regulate or what needs to happen in order for them to feel safe. And yeah, so just by listening to them and respecting what they need, you could actually help them. So you just need to listen and be aware of what they have to say. How can people become better allies and support causes they care about? I guess the main thing is just keeping yourself informed and up to date on the topic, and just keep on reading about the topic and watching videos and just familiarizing yourself with the topic and just go for it, and talking to people as well that are involved in the topic. And for me, an advocate that I really look up to, I've said this 1,000 times on the podcast, but it has to be Beryl Dudney as an advocate for early childhood education and the science behind brain development and how children play and develop. And as an advocate for visually impaired and autistic people, knowing the science behind brain development and executive function helps me not only understand the life of a child, but also how I can help advocate for a neurodivergent child or a visually impaired child and help them get the supports that they need in order to learn. What change would I like to see in the future? I guess I'd like to see the world becoming a more kind, respectful and inclusive place, especially in schools. Whether you're neurodivergent, neurotypical, sighted, blind, visually impaired, just being more inclusive and including the people that may seem different, because that could make their entire day. Like, they could go home and tell their loved ones what they did and who they played with and how much that meant to them. You never know. Something kind that you may do or say could make their lives so much better. So just be kind and be more inclusive to those around you. What advice would I give to someone that wants to become an advocate but doesn't know where to start? The best place you could start is learning. So just pay attention to the world around you. And if you have a passion for something that you feel there isn't enough awareness about, go for it. Grab a notepad or a pen and take notes, and you can spread information about that. Just make sure it's factual information and not just something you've heard on the street. So find something you're passionate about and get information on it and just go from there. You never know what kind of change you might make, so just go for it. With that, we've come to the end of my first Advocate episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. I might do an episode like this every 10 episodes or so, just to keep you guys up to date on what's going on. But as I said, I will never stop advocating, so just keep an eye on my Instagram, my YouTube, my TikTok and everything, and just keep up to date there. But a podcast episode on advocacy will be coming out every 10 episodes. And yeah, I do have a multicultural episode coming out on YouTube. So yeah, that'll be out next week or so. So keep an eye out for that. And as always, dreams unfold in many ways. So keep dreaming. And a reminder of this week's question of the day. If you could change one thing about our world, what would it be and why? So you could send your answers in to thewaitunfolded@gmail.com with the subject line episode 10 answer, or you can DM me on Instagram or TikTok. Ciao for now. Bye.